Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the psychological toolkit that can turn a maybe into a definite yes. Now, this isn't about being manipulative. It's really about understanding how people think so you can ethically guide them to a decision that actually helps them. You know that feeling, right? If you've ever tried to sell anything, a product, an idea, anything, you've hit this wall. And look, it's not because your offer is bad. It's usually because the conversation is missing a key psychological ingredient. We're going to break down exactly what that is right now.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll get into the psychology of why people buy in the first place. Then we'll talk about mastering those first critical 10 seconds, how to control the story, how to turn objections into your biggest advantage, and finally, how to close the deal with confidence.
Okay, let's kick things off with what is probably the single most important concept in all of sales, and it's this. People are not really motivated by gaining pleasure. What truly gets them to act is the desire to escape pain. Your job isn't to sell a thing, it's to sell a solution to a problem that they are feeling right now. I want you to picture this. Your prospect is standing on one side of a deep canyon, and they're in a painful spot. On the other side of that canyon is everything they want, their dream outcome. Your product, your service, that's the bridge that gets them from the pain they're in today to the pleasure they want tomorrow. The better you understand their pain, the stronger you can build that bridge.
So this is what we can call the pain funnel. Most people start out in what's called latent pain. It's kind of like the old story of the frog in slowly boiling water. They've gotten so used to the problem, they don't even notice it anymore. Your job is to turn up the heat a bit. You make the pain realized by asking sharp questions like, what's going to happen if nothing changes in the next 3 years? Once they see a better way, their current situation suddenly feels like extreme pain. The cost of doing nothing becomes unbearable. That is the exact moment a sale is made. Okay, so we get the whole pain thing, but how do you even earn the right to talk about it? Well, those first 10 seconds of a call are absolutely everything. And this is where most people fail, because they come in hot and immediately trigger the other person's defenses.
And this just shows you the difference so clearly. A huge study of thousands of cold calls found that a standard opener like, "How are you today?" has a pretty pathetic 37% success rate. Why? Because it's fake and everybody knows a sales pitch is coming. Now compare that to a totally disarming, pattern-breaking opener like, "You're gonna hate me," which had an almost 90% success rate at just starting a real conversation. It's not even close. So the reason those old school openers are so bad is because of this concept right here, psychological reactance. The second a person feels like you're trying to corner them or take away their freedom to choose, they instinctively push back. It's a defense mechanism. The best openers are designed to completely sidestep that trigger. And this is exactly how you do it. You use what are called permission-based openers. By literally giving the other person control and an easy way out, you're asking them, do you want to hang up? You actually make them way less likely to do it. You're respecting their time, you're lowering their guard, and that buys you the 30 seconds you need.
Okay, you made it through the opening. Congrats! Now you have to frame the rest of the conversation to build a real connection. And this is where a lot of people make another big mistake. They try to sound like this perfect, polished expert, which, ironically, often just pushes people away. This is what we call the adventurer frame. Instead of pretending you've got it all figured out, you position yourself as someone who's on a journey, exploring and testing and sharing what you find along the way. That kind of raw honesty is so much more relatable and way more trustworthy than trying to be some flawless guru.
And the reason this works so incredibly well is that people aren't just buying your knowledge, they're buying access to your process. They want someone to go figure it all out for them so they don't have to make all the same mistakes. Just being a couple of steps ahead of them is more than enough to provide a ton of value and win their trust.
And to make that connection really deep, you have to be willing to share what's called your pit of darkness. See, a polished success story might get you some admiration, but a story of struggle, that creates a genuine connection. People don't buy the perfect superhero origin story, they buy the comeback. Sharing your lowest point makes your success feel real and proves you actually understand their pain because you've been there yourself.
All right, let's dive into one of the most misunderstood and feared parts of any sale, the objection.
Most people hear an objection and think, oh no, it's over. But the top performers, they know that's when the real conversation is just getting started.
This right here is the whole mindset shift. You shouldn't be afraid of objections. You should be expecting them, even welcoming them. An objection is almost never a hard no. It's really just a request for more information. It's a sign that they're actually engaged and thinking seriously about what you're saying.
So here's a really powerful way to handle them. It's called objection inversion. Instead of arguing with their objection, you agree with them and then reframe it as the very reason they need your help. So when someone says, I can't afford it, you can come back with, I completely understand. And if the goal here is to get revenue up, isn't that the core reason we're even having this conversation? You see, you're not fighting their resistance. You're using its own momentum to guide them forward. So let's ask it again. Where does the real selling actually begin? It begins the second they push back. That's your cue. That's when you roll up your sleeves and really start to guide them from that maybe to a confident yes.
And here we are, the final stage. You've uncovered their pain, you've earned the right to speak, you've built trust, and you've handled their concerns. Now, it's time to ask for the sale and know exactly what to do if they go quiet on you afterward. Okay, this is Jordan Belfort's famous 3-part closing pattern, and it's all about your tone of voice, not about pressure. You start with a tone of absolute certainty. Give me one shot. Then, you drop your voice into utter sincerity, almost a whisper, and believe me. And finally, you shift into the calm, logical, reasonable person. You'll be very impressed. Sound fair enough? That final question makes it so easy for them to just say yes. But what about that thing that happens all the time? That super frustrating scenario. You have a great call, they sound super interested, and then crickets. Nothing. They just ghost you. Well, there's a very specific, proven sequence for how to handle exactly that. This timeline shows you how to re-engage someone without ever sounding desperate or needy. You start with direct professional follow-ups. Then you shift to an open-ended question. If you're still getting silence, a playful message can sometimes break the ice. But that final attempt, weeks later, is the most powerful. You go right back to their core pain. Did you give up on solving this problem? It's a really effective way to get a response. So at the end of the day, when you look at all of these techniques, from uncovering pain to handling objections, it all kind of boils down to one big question. Are these manipulative tricks? Or are they simply the science of effective communication, designed to cut through all the noise so you can finally be heard? The answer, of course, really depends on the hands that are using them.